Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Midweek with Meaning. This is Angela Ward coming at you. I am here to talk about a very important topic. And I'll tell you more about it in a moment. But if you are watching live, I'd love to know. Please put something in the comments. Let me know you're here. Say hello. And I probably have some questions for you as we go through this. So, yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. You guys, over the last, I don't know, maybe it was last week, I binged a podcast, which I am strongly encouraging you to check out from New York Magazine's cover story. It's called Power Trip. And it is the story of some shenanigans, if I'd like to say it nicely, shenanigans inside the psychedelic community, but actually really significant harm and trauma, like really not good. So there have been murmurings, of course, throughout time that has been psychedelic practices going on, especially, well, at least in my awareness of improprieties from the 50s forward. I don't know of indigenous improprieties, but I can imagine that must be some. So I just wanted to riff on this conversation with you because I think it's super important to talk about. So first of all, let's just get an understanding of when I'm talking about ethics, what am I talking about? So technically the root of what ethics means is the study or like understanding of morals, the study or science of morals. And when people hear morals, oftentimes they get a little like, whoa, like this is moral majority stuff, or you're trying to tell me what to do. That's not what morals mean. It's actually an old word. Ethics comes from something that Aristotle wrote, ethics with a K. But morals really mean associated with or characterized by right behavior. And of course, that conversation is slippery, right? What is right behavior exactly? But I do think there are things that we can agree on in our society that are right behaviors and harming behaviors. That's really how I'm thinking about that. So just to start with, the Power Trip podcast covers a lineage of psychedelic assisted therapy coming from Salvador Roquet, who was a Mexican therapist who was questionable in his practices. One of my teachers was a student of his, although I'm not in this particular lineage of teachers. But Salvador Roquet was very much into kind of this idea of chaos therapy. Like you kind of had to get people really high and break them in order for them to really rebuild. And so he would give people he would do this in groups. He'd give people massive amounts of psychedelics. He would play extremely loud and discordant music. He would show imagery, simultaneously showing pornography and also scenes of incredible violence, and just kind of overwhelm people for hours and hours. He also had worked with the Mexican government doing some torture, so there's some questionable stuff there. But this guy was, he's an older dude, right? That's, that was a while ago. We did a lot of stupid shit. I mean, we still do stupid shit, but we did some ridiculous stuff in our histories as human beings in the not so long ago. But cover story, the Power Trip article discusses the Center for Consciousness Medicine, which I have to say freaking breaks my heart because they disclose ongoing boundary crossing and unethical behavior in quite profound depth. Now, if anyone has spent time with me, working with me, in my own work, or maybe watching my channel for a really long time, you'll know that a lot of my work is rooted in a book called Consciousness Medicine. Probably, in fact, have it here on my desk because it's one that I refer to quite a bit. This book, which I've told people to read. I love it. I think it's really fantastic. And I love Francois Bozrat. And the Center for Consciousness Medicine, related to this book and this teacher and her husband, have had some profoundly damaging boundary violations, including sexual harm and gaslighting. And not to throw them under the bus or anything, apparently Francois's lineage is through Salvador Riquet, and her husband's lineage is through Salvador Riquet. So some of this stuff is, an old part of the psychedelic history. So the reason I'm bringing this up today, and I think it's really important to consider this, is, psychedelics as psychedelic assisted therapies are like the hot thing for healing, right? Everyone's getting really excited about it. Everybody's talking about microdosing or doing ayahuasca or whatever. Like I went to go pick up something at the store the other day, and some girl was telling me about how great it would be to take a little microdose when I go into soak in the hot tub or something. And I was just like, you don't even know me. I mean, I guess I have that look, but I don't know. Maybe do I? What's the look of a psychedelic person? I don't know. I'm just telling you, it's in the common awareness right now, very broadly. And part of the problem is when we have the shine on something, we don't look at the shadow part at all. And it's really important that we balance this psychedelic renaissance and the magic of healing with some conversations around how do we want to be in right relationship and in right behavior in this type of work. So again, strongly encourage you to check that podcast out. It's very, very difficult, might be triggering. So just a warning about that. I think they're pretty good about giving trigger warnings in the podcast too. So, but take a listen. But how can we broaden this conversation? So I think what's really happening in this experience of what happened with the Center for Consciousness Medicine and probably many other practitioners is that we are currently, as you know, living in a time of prohibition, right? Drugs are prohibited. Like anything that's not prescribed to you by your doctor is prohibited. Brief side note, I'm also watching Dope Sick, and like it don't matter if that shit's prescribed to you by your doctor because shit can still be problematic, right? Oh my gosh, what a mess. But this idea that because good drugs are only the drugs that you get prescribed to you and all other drugs are bad means that people that are engaging with drugs that aren't prescribed to you are doing so in a shadowy world. They're doing it in isolation, or they're connecting to communities that don't have much oversight or even connection, right? Like even collaboration. So in that place, problems can occur, like if people have no kind of standards of practice or understanding how to work in certain expansive states, or even having an opportunity to reflect on whether or not one's actions could be perceived questionably, it's really a problem, because people who can't, first of all, like I said, there's no like oversight arena, but then also there's no place for people that are harmed to come and get any kind of repair done, which is really not good. That is not helpful for people to be like, okay, I mean, imagine if something really bad happened to you and you couldn't go tell anybody about it. You couldn't let people know, and you just had to suffer in silence. Like, that's not good. And then what if you knew somebody else was interested in doing the thing that you got harmed at and you can't really tell them about it? So this is a problem with prohibition. So hopefully we're at a time where we're starting to end the prohibition against drugs, against specifically psychedelics. Although I would argue that all drugs really should be decriminalized to some degree, because it's not helping to be criminalizing everybody. It's causing more problems. But as we move into a state of decriminalization or legalization of psychedelics, there are important conversations we need to have here as well around these ethical questions. So I'm going to just bring a few up here. If this is bringing any questions up for you, please put them in the chat, or if you're watching the replay, put in a replay comment. I'd love to read it. Some questions that are coming up for me are, who gets to be providing drugs? And I'm deliberately using the word drugs here, because I'm not trying to differentiate between psychedelics. Although maybe this is another good point. Like, what is the line between plants and fungus versus a molecule or something that is made in a laboratory? Like, this is also an ethical question. Like, we know the psychedelic 5-MeO-DMT is found in the venom of the Sonoran desert toad, and people have been decimating the toad populations, although people will argue with me that that's not true. That is the word I'm hearing from people that are on the ground, that are putting their hands on toads, trying to do toad conservation and things like that. The thing is, 5-MeO-DMT can be synthesized in a lab. So where's the line? And is it ethical for us to only go for the animal source, or is it ethical to go for the synthetic? I guess this is also a question of like beyond beef, right? Like, what's the balance there? Or, so if we're looking at this, are we regulating just plants and fungus? Are we regulating all of these chemicals? And if that's the case, who gets to have them? Who gets to have them? Is it people that have a good citizen license? That scares the shit out of me. I don't know what that even means, but I was looking around on symposia. I would love to share symposia with you, so I'm going to put that in the window. I'll put it in the chat. I think you guys can see it there. Symposia, has been doing this work for a really long time, asking all kinds of questions about what's going on in the corporatization and legalization of psychedelics. Here, I'm going to show this. So if you want to check out Symposia, that's a great place to start. They talk about a lot of challenges with this emerging world. But gosh, it's just so complicated, but we have to talk about it. So let's talk about who gets to have medicine. I was just watching on Symposia's Discord channel that there was Rick Doblin talking about. Rick Doblin is the founder of the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, who is hopefully, they're really working towards legalizing MDMA as a therapy. But he's talking about people having a license, like a card with your picture on it that you get renewed at the DMV or something in order to be okay to use these plant teachers, these molecular teachers that have maybe been part of our human history for a long time. That's complicated. Another ethical question I have is, who are the people that get to serve and support people that are doing psychedelic medicines? And can psychedelics only be done in a clinical space or a registered environment of some kind, healing retreat center? What about people that are going to festivals? What about people that are doing this at the weekend in the woods with their friends? Like, there's some questions there. Another concern is, like, if we believe these are tools for transformation and healing, who gets to market them? Who gets to sell them? Do they get to be for-profit companies? Do these for-profit companies get to patent a particular molecule or delivery system, making them very challenging for other people to access? Ketamine is a perfect example of this. Johnson & Johnson, Janssen, a subsidiary of Johnson & Johnson, did studies on ketamine to see its effects as an antidepressant. And the studies were really amazing. They showed how quickly it worked as an antidepressant when given within an hour versus placebo or versus any of the other SSRIs. So because ketamine is off patent and generic and incredibly cheap as far as the drug goes, Janssen went and created a very particular type of molecule of ketamine. You can look up all that stuff if you need to know the details. And then they were able to patent that through the FDA and have it approved as a treatment. Well, they weren't patented through the FDA, sorry. They had it approved by the FDA for the treatment of depression. This product is called Spravato. And Spravato, your insurance will pay for it because the FDA approved it for that treatment. But it runs about about $900 a dose at one treatment versus ketamine, which is dollars for the medicine. That's insane. They also set it up so that providers that are giving Spravato can only give it in very particular settings. They have to be in a medical clinic in a particular way. So whereas ketamine, like I'm able to work with that under a medical doctor's license. We work in more of a psychotherapeutic office. We have the medical resources available. I'm a nurse, but we are able to work with it not clinically. We can move at a different pace. It's not like this. So that concerns me too. It's like, is Compass Pathways, for example, going to be able to patent a particular form of a psilocybin molecule that will only be available in a certain setting? Is that right? Is that okay? And who gets to make these decisions? Who are the people at the table here? I feel like I'm just asking all the questions and not giving any solutions, right? But these are concerns for me. So when I consider my ethical orientation, like this is something that as a nurse, I'm grounded in and probably could do a lot better in, but it's important to me because as a nurse, my role is to be a patient advocate, and my patient is not just one person. It is expanded to a community. And my role as a nurse is not to fix you or take care of you. Like, it's not like I'm not fixing your problem. My role is to meet you where you're at and to help find solutions to what you need and to help you do the best you can with what you have, and to work in collaboration with your care team to understand what things could maybe help you. I'm not coming from a medicine specific place. But that my nurse training does come with a strong ethical code. I probably even have that over here too. My American Nurses Association Code of Ethics. Let's see, it's on here somewhere. Probably. You don't want to look at it. You don't even care. But it just talks about the different ways that we as nurses carry ourselves in relation to the people that we're caring for. And I'm not saying that the nursing code of ethics is the only way that we need to go. There's the North Star Pledge, although there's some problems with the North Star Pledge, but there's a lot of things out there that have a place to look for kind of your own personal moral and ethical grounding in this way. And I think it's super, super important for, number one, you to develop your own moral compass, your own ethical perspective. And it can be in relation to psychedelics, or it could be in relation to just so many things in the world. There's so many issues right now where we need to have clear-headed thinking about right action versus harm infliction. And the truth is, there's some places where we're not certain where harm is, right? We're not certain yet the outcomes of how harm can happen. But I do know this. I do know that in isolation, it is impossible for us to have conversations about it. It's very hard to talk about consent without perspective, right? So that's a really big issue that's up in the psychedelic world, is people are being abused by some providers out there. But then there's also an arena of people that are interested in doing like sexual psychedelic assisted therapy. So what's the lines here? And how do we come to understand harm and not victim blame and not spiritually bypass in these arenas? Yeah, as you can see, this is a big topic and I can say a lot about it. And I'm sorry I haven't got it like really precise, but there's a lot in this arena. So I'd love to hear if you have any questions or if this is bringing up any thoughts for you around this. I think one question that I have heard is, how do I know, let's say you're someone that's interested in doing psychedelic assisted therapy of some kind, above ground or underground. How do I know I'm working with someone who is ethical or safe? And that's a really good question. I can answer it to the best of my ability. And I know that I probably don't have the full answer or the right answer myself. But I think working above ground, if you can, doing legal medicine work is helpful. As a nurse doing legal ketamine work, I am in collaboration with a team and a community of care providers that we've worked on this robustly and above ground. And I am personally in a kind of consult relationship with other providers that are doing this work. So that makes it helpful that we have a community to discuss how to best help you. For people that are wanting to do underground work, I think it's important to ask your provider, what is their ethical perspective? What do they know about treating trauma? What do they know about consent? These things I think are really, really important. Because if you are someone that wants to work with these medicines, you have to understand that they are pattern disruptors. They can sometimes drop inhibitions in a way that maybe you wouldn't do in your resting life, which is part of why they're really great, right? Because they can let us explore territory that maybe we wouldn't let ourselves normally explore. But if you're working with someone who is willing to take care of your suggestible, vulnerable state and exert power or, take advantage of you, that's not cool. That's really harmful, actually. So it's important for you to have these conversations. The other thing I think it's really important for you to understand, if you're a seeker, let's just say you're a seeker, above or underground or whatever, you're a seeker, understand there are very few situations where you need to do psychedelics right now. I'm going to say that again in case you missed it. There are very few situations where you need to do psychedelics right now. If you are called to this experience, it makes the most sense to go at a slower pace. Now, there are situations that might require speed, like suicidal ideation, and ketamine is really important. I do know some people that work in the underground that if someone is facing a terminal illness, like their cancer diagnosis, for example, and have a very short window of time, they might move more quickly into doing work together. But if you're working with a guide, go slow, build rapport, speak to any boundary violations. I know that can be hard, but speak to boundary violations and have a conversation with other people. If you're like, something seems not right here, have that conversation with your potential guide or provider. Also, if your provider dismisses your concerns or calls you, gosh, how do we say this? It's basically if someone spiritually bypasses your your questions or concerns. That's important to consider. It is a very tender ground. I would also make sure that your provider has some training and experience. Like, who do they train with? What do they know? Do they have training? Do they have any training? Do they have any? I mean, there are people that have trained by having done a lot of psychedelics, and that's one approach. And I think some people are lucky and can do good work in that arena, especially if they're people that have done a training with a traditional lineage or indigenous practice. Like if someone's trained with ayahuasqueros, or someone has trained and learned how to carry peyote or something, like they're in a lineage of training, that counts to me. They don't have to have letters behind their name or all of that, but just be aware, ask questions, because psychedelics by their nature are destabilizing, and that's what we want them to do. Is we want to disrupt the things that are keeping you stuck or keeping you wherever you are, that thing that you're trying to shift. But you need to be held in beautiful, pristine, integral care in that process, and it's super, super important. As a labor and delivery nurse, like, I was asking women to open the widest they'd ever been with a complete stranger. And I feel the same way with psychedelic assisted therapy. We're asking you to go deeper, wider, bigger than you have probably ever gone before. And you need to be with someone who will guard you in that space, protect you in that space, not keeping you away from your own difficult work, but who has respect for your autonomy and would trust where we were going and really take care of you. So, I have lots to say about it. Hence the name of my business, Guardian at the Gateway, in case you didn't figure that out. So I am going to leave it there, but I'd like to draw a little card for the week. If you watch this, or maybe you think about this, I would really love to hear what it percolates for you, or what curiosity is coming up for you around this conversation. What are your own ethics? I did do a talk a while ago about a personal code of ethics. So if you scroll through my old talks or search it, I think it's called A Personal Code of Ethics. And that might be an interesting place for you to start, just to understand what your own, compass is. I think that's super important. And it doesn't have to be related to psychedelics specifically. It can be for your whole life. Super important. So anyway, we're going to go back in with our sweet little spirit animal oracle. Last week we had sweet frog spirit. This was a great one about clearing. Did anybody clear anything? I did. I threw some stuff out and made some space, and it felt great. So thank you, frog spirit. You're going back in the pile. And I would like to see what is up for this week. What is a lens that we can add to this conversation? How can we walk that space? How can we bring these tools for transformation forward in a way that does not harm, but instead enlivens, enlightens, liberates with kindness and compassion? Yeah, that's what's mattering to me. So, what does the card have to say? Also, thank you all for watching, for being here with me. I really appreciate it. See a couple of little eyes watching. I think it's gonna be this card. Ooh, I think I might even know. Do I know this card? The back looks familiar. Is it true? Electric eel spirit. Zzz, zzz. It says, bring your ideas to life. What does that even mean? It makes me think of that song, Electric Feel. Do you know that song? Da, 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 da. Ooh, girl, you shock me like an electric eel. Baby girl. Is that how it goes? Yeah. All right. Seemingly out of nowhere, The jolt of electric eel spirit appears to awaken you to a big idea you are meant to explore. Ooh, is he maybe supposed to explore your own personal code of ethics? Oh, maybe. Epiphanies and aha moments are gifted to you right now, so celebrate. Your life has the potential for profound transformation. Inspiration arises in you, electrifying you so that you can't wait to get started bringing your ideas to life. The revelations you experience now are meant to set you on a new path, so do not be afraid to act. Explore, examine, and do not fear the changes that may come, for Spirit wants to shower you with love, success, and abundance that you hope to experience. Now is a thrilling time for epiphanies, inspired ideas, and innovations. This is a wondrous sign for today. Protection message. Ideas need to percolate, as they rarely download in detailed form. Okay, remember when I just said that you don't have to do psychedelics today? Okay, just saying. Have you too quickly dismissed an epiphany because you couldn't see where it might lead you? Have you rushed to follow the muse without taking time to contemplate the meaning of your aha moment? Perhaps your dream will take a different form than you first imagined, morphing into something else that is even better. Spirit's plans are often hard to discern, but so much more satisfying once they have taken over from your own predetermination. Yes. So if you're a seeker, please take your time. And if you are a provider or someone who's just interested in this field or the questions around there, I'd really love for you to just see what else is there. That's amazing. Maybe your big idea is taking more time to shape than you expected. Have you considered that you are meant to learn something in the process of bringing it into being? Commit to transformation and learning any lessons this new venture will bring. And soon you will see that your aha was even more valuable than you realized when you first felt it electrify you. Commit to the transformation. What that says to me is, as I've said repeatedly, these are tools for transformation. It is not the transformation itself. And if you are ready to make some transformation in your life, commit to it. The medicine will come if that's what's the right thing and with clarity, but commit to the transformation. And that makes me think real quick, for those of you that don't know, if you're interested in seeking a little bit more, I have a course. It's called Mindful Journey. It's a safer psychedelic home use primer. And it talks quite a bit about different ways you might want to prepare and integrate this work if you choose to go in that direction. Now, I'm not advocating you do psychedelics. I'm not telling you to do psychedelics. I'm doing this from a harm reduction perspective. And I really think it's essential that you keep balance in mind when you do this. So anyway, my loves, thanks for sticking with me a little longer than normal. Mwah. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. And we'll be back next week. I'll see you then. Bye.